With the release of the Backwater Bayou update, I'm going to be doing a little bit of a first impressions on my views on the update, as well as taking into account a lot of community feedback. Now initially, I will say that I think this update came out very good. In my view, this is a very strong update with only a few minor flaws that frankly pushes the game forward in ways that I didn't think it could in 2025. Now the biggest thing related to this update is that it was mostly secret. No one really knew that this was going to drop until it did. The fishing outpost was kind of a shock to most people because it wasn't in the 2024 recap, which makes me believe that this was something that the admins were hiding for a reason. And the reason, I believe, is because it's actually really solid and a great boost to morale, at least for me personally, because it shows that Skyblock is able to innovate in 2025, something I didn't think it was initially capable of. Now to start off here, we're in the fishing outpost in the hub, and I've got to praise this area for two main reasons. Number one, it's very visually cool, and number two, it does a great job of introducing a lot of mechanics for new players. First of all, its quest is actually done very well. You first talk to Enid, then you talk to Gerald, and then you talk to Baja, you fish up a rusty ship engine, and then off you go to the Backwater Bayou. Excellent stuff, doesn't need any more fluff. That is a great intro quest. The second thing I wanted to talk about here is actually at the fishing merchant over in this building. It's actually the fact that it introduces cloaks, necklaces, bracelets, and belts, the equipment, way earlier than anyone would have anticipated. Equipment is a very important part of Skyblock, and it should be introduced early. Putting it here is just fine in my view, as fishing isn't the most complicated skill to begin with, and the angler equipment isn't bad at all, especially for its level, and then you can upgrade it into the backwater equipment later. I personally am really happy with this setup. Now, something I will say that I really like as well is the ship. I think the ability to upgrade the ship with having first rusty parts and then bronze parts is really cool. It grants you some amount of fishing wisdom. It's kind of similar to all of the perks you get at Maddox when you do a bunch of the Slayers where you get that bonus combat wisdom. I think it's really solid here. You're also able to name the ship, which I think is super cute. You can just name it whatever you want. Definitely good stuff there. There's also the ship navigator, which really shows off the modular design they're going for. You have an island, you can go to it, it's separate from the hub. Excellent, that's all they needed to do. This allows the admin team to produce islands at a faster pace than ever before, because they don't have to be tied to previous content, they don't have to be tied to the hub. You can just go to a place and add things, and it means more island content more frequently for the players. I would not be shocked at all if this becomes a main way that we get content in the future, with the admins adding island after island related to fishing or whatever other skills they may want to add for. Heading to the Backwater Bayou itself, it is certainly an island, and in my opinion, it's a pretty good one. You got everything here. You got fairy souls, you got NPCs, you got a bunch of new creatures, and frankly, things look pretty good. A major piece of praise I have for this update is the way that it introduces its systems, and frankly, Junker Joel and Roddy and Hattie are all very good at this. Junker Joel shows off the new junk system extremely well. You get the junk sinker, and then you head up to Roddy. Roddy does a great job of showing off the new rod mechanics. Frankly, I wish we had a system like this in place way sooner, because it is super nice. It allows them to consolidate a lot of the rods down to just like the Rod of the Sea and that same line, as well as the lava fishing rod line, and create customizability through hooks, through lines, and through sinkers. And frankly, the only thing I wish is that we got more hooks and lines at the start of this update. There are quite a few sinkers in the game already, and while many of them aren't great, I can see some people choosing things like the Stingy Sinker, the Hotspot Sinker, and also the Junk Sinker, which is important for the Bayou. Overall, though, they did a great job on this. Really just wish there were more lines. I feel like there's a few stats that could be added to this system super easily. Magic find on fishing rods, for example, a bunch more trophy fish chance on fishing rods, stuff like that. Also, obviously, there was a bunch of controversy around the Phantom Rod, although they are going to eventually add something that does the Phantom Rod ability in the future, so don't worry too badly about that. Moving on to another positive of the update, in my view, is definitely going to be the sea creatures themselves, not necessarily the hotspot system. The sea creatures are super cool. The Bayou ones are incredibly solid, generally interesting, and I think they are set up well. There's also the general hotspot ones, which include the lava hotspot ones, and all of them are pretty cool. Fiery Scuttler is a highlight in my view, same thing with the blue ringed octopus as well as Ragnarok, and also the Wiki Tiki. All of them super interesting. Same thing with the Titanoboa, by the way, and the alligator. Just a lot of really solid, memorable sea creatures here, all with drops that aren't too bad, other than the Singed Powder, which I think is a little bit low. The hotspots are a bit of a mixed bag in my view, though. Generally, I like a few parts of them, and I dislike a few other parts. The stat buffs are cool, the reasons why players would want to use them are numerous and obvious, but I will say it does do a little bit of damage to the way that loot share works, and the way that players get drops with Magic Find. There are obvious ways that can get a little bit wacky, especially with certain players using things like a Fire Veil. I don't really know what the solution is to stuff like that. It's not really something you can super easily fix, but it definitely is a slight problem in my view. And something else I will say, in the Bayou, it's not actually that bad at all. It's not really much of a problem. But in the Crimson Isle, it is rough having to run halfway across the island whenever a new hotspot spawns. Personally, I would just make them last a lot longer in the Crimson Isle, or just make a lot more of them spawn at once. But it is annoying to have to teleport halfway across the map every 4 minutes because there's a new hotspot and I want to get the sea creatures. I get it, they want people to fish in these specific spots, but it's a little excessive, at least on the Crimson Isle. In terms of the loot from this update as well, I think things are in a good place overall. Aside from a couple drops being a little bit rare, most things are common enough to where the game feels like it's rewarding you for your time investment, and most of the items in the shops are not too expensive if you're not on Iron Man. Good job to the admin team for actually making this update super reasonable to max. It totally makes sense considering it's an early to mid-game fishing update, but we have seen updates in the past be early game and have some crazy drops included, so I really do appreciate that here. If you were to ask me to rate this update from a 1 to a 10, I'd probably give it an 8 or an 8.5. The only issues I have with it are minor, and they are mostly related to hotspots, and frankly only related to hotspots in the Crimson Isle. It does become a little bit of an issue, but it's not too bad. And plus, these issues are easily fixable, which is a great thing. However, if you were to ask me to rate this update a year ago from now, or a year from now, I'd probably say closer to a 9 or a 9.5, maybe even a 10 out of 10. And that's because of the modular systems that this update has opened up for the future. The admins are now able to add more hooks, lines, and sinkers to fishing content way easier than ever before. The admins are also able to add more to the ship navigator way easier than ever before. Major content, new islands, new places to explore, new NPCs, new systems will be easy for the admins to add in the future. And I can't really say it's going to be like that for any other skill in the game. The admins have streamlined the fishing experience so much that in fact I believe that if the admins truly wanted to, they could get a new island out whenever they wanted within about a month's time if they wanted to put in the work to do so. And that's really good, because that opens up the opportunity for more fishing content and islands to be added on a quick, yearly basis, and also allows for more interesting content related to this new system to be added in the future. Islands that appear and disappear within the same Skyblock year, or islands that are only around during certain mayors. The possibilities are basically endless. The admins have done a great job with this update, and frankly, I think that in the future, we'll be looking back at this update as the start of a new age for Skyblock in a very positive way. At the end of the day though, my name's Derailious, thank you so much for watching this video till the end, and look to the future fellas, I'll see you then.